Let's talk to Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor. Isabel, very good morning to you.
I'm going to totally back you up on that one. So if we have to apologise, we can apologise together, but we won't be doing that, will we?
No.
Because it's true. It's obviously true. And I'm sure there could be some more detailed research to be done on this journalistically. But we already know that migrants are being given driving lessons,
Yeah.
don't we? Do you remember that story?
Yes, absolutely. Free driving lessons, free driving tests as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if you find out that amongst all the other stuff they've been given for free, a few of them might even be getting free cars, for all we know.
I don't think that's at all beyond the realms of possibility. Probably using the PIP scheme or something,
Yeah.
whatever, Motability scheme.
Yeah.
It is. I had my brilliant researcher in a really tough part of Birmingham over the weekend. I was following up on this flag protest, which I'm going to talk about, because I think the story is fascinating. And what is extraordinary is that if you go to even in some of the most downtrodden, tough parts of inner city places like Birmingham, you see these really very nice cars in the driveway. They're an awful lot shinier than mine is, I can tell you. And you just wonder how on earth all of this computes.
Right. Well, we know that 1 in 5 cars now, new cars sold in this country, are Motability cars. That's a big number, whichever way you cut it. And we also know that there's quite a lot of migrants and people from born outside of the UK on benefits now.
Oh, yes, exactly. I think it's £1 billion a month on benefits to foreign nationals. And, I think we need to be very clear about what's happening to quite a lot of these benefit payments. They're actually being sent back to the countries of origin. And that is why, if you spend time in very, very heavily ethnic minority areas, particularly where demographics have changed very fast. So, for example, in my partner's constituency of Boston and Skegness in Boston, you find that streets are very, very dominated by businesses relating to money transfers. I mean, there's nothing new about this. I just sometimes think that our elites in their ivory towers in Islington and other parts of London don't actually understand this. If they actually go to some of these areas, they'll see just how much money is actually flooding out of the country. I'm not sure these are all well-gotten gains. I think quite a lot of them are ill-gotten gains, cash going out. And others is welfare payment.
No, there's absolutely no question. I mean, even years and years ago, when my children, my two youngest children were born, both in Scotland, it was when there was an awful lot of Polish people in the country because they'd been invited in. You remember Tony Blair said 15,000 Poles would come, and it was close to a million. There were people I remember in my kids' kindergarten class who were Polish, and they said, we're going home 6 months of the year, but we can still have our child benefits sent to Poland. Because again, the systems are so useless that they think they're doing a good thing, and I'm sure originally it was brought in as a measurement of goodness and of generosity. But we shouldn't be paying child benefits to people who don't live in Britain.
Of course we shouldn't, and all of that has absolutely got to go. But just to go back to the flag thing, which is fascinating, I'm sure a lot of our listeners will have been following it. This row in Birmingham where the council decided to crack down on a kind of spontaneous display of Union flags and St George's flags, and began tearing them down, whilst at the same time refusing to take down Palestinian flags. So having gone up there, I mean, those Palestinian flags are still very much in evidence. They are fluttering high across main shopping streets in certain wards of Birmingham. They are, you can't do much about this, but they are in people's windows. They are prolific. And I looked at the law on this, and I'm not actually sure that Palestinian flags in public places hoisted on lampposts are legal, because the UK doesn't recognise Palestine as a country, and you can't just shove any old flag up.
Well, I
Only
seem to remember in the very early days of the post October the 7th massacre in 2023, there was problems in Tower Hamlets in London, which is a very ethnically Asian place really, around about sort of just short of Canary Wharf, and there were people putting up Palestine flags, and they were being taken down. Not least by some of the white English residents who said you can't do that, you can't put those up there. But that seems to have changed, because Tower Hamlets started copying Birmingham and said that they would take down British flags if they were placed, and they would take them down straight away.
I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous, because British flags being hoisted is totally legal. Of course it is.
Yeah.
And indeed, the government a few years ago, the then Tory government, said it wanted to encourage more British flags, and quite right too. And I think instead of seeing this as some kind of act of cultural aggression, our leaders should lean into it. You know, it's in a way a rather charming reaffirmation of who we are, and could actually bring the nation together in a rather nice way. You know, by deciding to confront this aggressively, councils are making it something that it doesn't need to be.
Right.
You know, this is actually a kind of cri de coeur, a cry from the heart of British people who feel that our culture and our identity is under threat. And it's hard to imagine a more peaceful and rather sweet way of pushing back.
Absolutely, and I said this earlier on in the show, that there's a sense that we have rediscovered our patriotism and have rediscovered our nationality, and have decided that if this is the vehicle under which we discover it, then great. Then I think that's a really good thing, in the same way that we've rediscovered our kind of slight cussedness about being treated like idiots, you know, and people are turning up outside hotels up and down the country to make that point. Not to have fights with the police, not to be difficult, not to be nasty and ghastly, but just to stand there and say, we don't like this, we're not happy, we don't want these people living in our streets, in our neighbourhoods. You know, we've got Havant Council this morning being written about in The Sun, a load of Labour councillors passing emails to each other saying what we must do with these immigrants to beat racism is to make sure we house them in the community, near schools, near shops, near accessible facilities, so that they can integrate quicker. Well, that's completely and utterly mad, isn't it?
I mean, they just don't get it, do they? You can just rely on our leaders, it seems. And I don't mean just the ones at the very top, but the kind of idiots at council level. To misread this completely. They just don't seem to get it. And everything that they do actually backfires and is likely to increase tensions rather than to diffuse them. And I really feel that we're heading into a dark place here, because people are desperately searching for peaceful ways to make their feelings known. And the more those peaceful demonstrations are crushed, and I mean, for example, this flag movement, which seems to have been kind of taking off almost spontaneously, it's kind of grassroots thing, which seems to be going under some hashtag raise the colours, something like that. I don't know who is ultimately behind it. But if authorities start crushing that, and even at the same time allowing Palestinian and other foreign flags to fly, people are just their tempers are going to boil over.
Well, this is what happened in Birmingham, wasn't it? When I think there was a couple of surrounding areas as well, and up in the north of England, where they were raising the Pakistan flag officially on council chambers, saying, you know, that they wanted to celebrate Pakistan Independence Day. And you kind of going, well, that's fine. Do they celebrate, you know, St. George's Day in Karachi? I very much doubt it.
No, they don't. They don't. So this is all spiraling, I feel, and I just don't know how it's going to play out. But what I do know is that people are yearning for some way to reassert who we are and what we stand for in a really positive way. And unless the leaders of the country begin to recognize that and help people do it, they're going to feel ever more misunderstood and unheard. And, you know, it's like when you've got teenagers and toddlers that don't think they're being listened to, they tend to lash out.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at what Keir Starmer has to say about reclaiming the flag.
We should always fight for our flag. It's our flag, it's our history, our heritage, it's our values. So we should always fight for that flag. I recognise that people want to see a country that's secure in all aspects, secure borders, secure economy, and secure in terms of people's health and opportunities. That is part and parcel of what we are as a country. But there is this battle for the flag. There are some people who want to use it, cause conflict, to use it as it was used in some of the riots last year. I don't think we should give up on our flag. We should reclaim it. It belongs not to me as Prime Minister, not to the government, not to the Labour Party, not to any political party. It belongs to all of us, and we should be proud of it.
Yeah, I wish I thought I knew what he meant by that, but I don't really.
No. He started off quite well, didn't he?
Yeah.
He started off, and then as he rambled on, it just went downhill. He started prattling on about it being used by didn't actually use the words, but by the far right.
Yeah.
And we know what he meant.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you don't need permission, by the way, to fly a rainbow flag. You don't need permission from your council to fly an NHS flag.
No.
You, in theory, should take permission to fly a Palestinian one.
No, I know, absolutely ridiculous. I was driving in Tower Hamlets, funny enough, just the other day, and a car went past me. I think it was an Uber, and it had the biggest Palestinian flag you've ever seen flying off the back of it. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's just completely insane. I just thought, what's going on?
I'm looking into getting a flagpole. This is why I was actually looking at the law on this. Do you need planning permission for a flagpole?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that you don't, as long as it is lower than 4.6 metres. So there you go.
There you go. Excellent. I'll put one on the roof. Thank you very much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor there.